Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Andi Fouberg, and I'm the president and CEO of the SDSU Alumni Association, as well as the current chair of the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce. Tonight is the first in a series of 5 opportunities hosted by the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce in conjunction with South Dakota State University to hear from campus and community leaders about Jacks Are Back and the Community COVID-19 Leadership Working Group, the planning groups working to bring students back to campus in Brookings safely. I'm joined this evening by the Mayor of Brookings, Keith Corbett, and the President of South Dakota State University, Dr. Barry Dunn. Thank you both for joining us this evening. This is the first of 5 campus community Zoom forums, and we hope you will join us for each of these. You can find the schedule on the Chamber website, as well as SDSU's Jacks Are Back website. As the summer goes on, we will share more specifics about the return to campus. On June 24th, SDSU Vice President for Student Affairs, Michaela Willis, and Brookings Assistant City Manager, Jacob Meschke, will share updates on residential life planning, new student orientation, and a preliminary discussion about move-in planning. On July 15th, SDSU Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dennis Hedge, and Brookings School Superintendent, Clint Willert, will discuss planning for classrooms and academic structure for the fall semester. On August 5th, SDSU Vice President for Student Affairs, Michaela Willis, and Brookings City Manager, Paul Brazino, will discuss move-in events as we get closer to those dates. And finally, on Wednesday, August 19th, SDSU Athletic Director Justin Sell and Brookings High School Activities Director Randy Soma will discuss Jackrabbit and Bobcat athletics. Which brings us back to our guests this evening. We have a list of questions that have been submitted for our guests. If you have a question, please use the question and answer feature at the bottom, and we will answer those questions as time permits or at a future forum. But thank you all for joining us tonight. President Dunn, this is certainly was an unprecedented spring and start to the summer. How are things going at SDSU, in particular with the Jacks Are Back Task Force?
Well, thanks, Andi, and thanks, Mayor Corbett, for for letting me join you all tonight, and thanks to the audience. Really appreciate the opportunity to interact with you in this virtual world. Well, Andi, it's a very busy time at SDSU. We welcome back our staff to campus on June 1st, and we have about a third maybe of our staff actually working on campus now. We've had a great deal of success with folks working from home, and so some people are still working from home. We're kind of doing a soft opening here, making sure we have our processes in place to keep each other safe. In addition to that, we have very active groups going, 2 that I mentioned. One's our Emergency Management Task Force, and that task force has been meeting on COVID-19 since January 22nd, I believe. So sometime at one point they were meeting every day. Now they're down to 2 times a week as this has settled down and we've become much more familiar with it. And the other committee that we have that you mentioned is our Jacks Are Back Task Force. And that we formed that group as we moved from the different parts of this pandemic. And so we're now in a recovery phase. And so with recovery, we created that task force on how do we bring campus back to life in the fall. Lots of hard work, very detailed work going on, Andi. So every department, every college is going through their plans class by class, faculty member by faculty member, on how we're going to teach that class. And that's an enormous amount of work. And then those plans come back up to us in our Jacks Are Back Task Force, and we approve them. Same thing with student life, same thing with the Wellness Center, McCrory Gardens, all these different units on campus. How are we going to do research? All of those plans have to be brought to us so that we make sure that we can social distance as much as possible, recommend masks, do all those things to keep us all safe, and try to avoid what we ran into last spring when we had to move campus to a virtual environment. So lots of hard work, more detailed than probably some people want to know, but that's our job, and we're taking it very seriously.
I'm glad you mentioned McCrory Gardens. They opened today, so that's something for folks to get out and do. Mayor Corbett, obviously a lot of things have changed over the summer in Brookings. Can you update us on COVID-19 Community Leadership Working Group and where that group stands as we prepare for the fall?
Certainly. Thank you, Andy. And thanks again to the Chamber of Commerce for offering this to the community so we can get the word out. The Community COVID-19 Leadership Working Group, as President Dunn said, has been planning for quite a while since the first day. And it's just a group of leaders from the medical, law enforcement, fire, emergency management, SDSU, of course, City of Brookings, the county, and then others who meet to discuss cases and how do we plan for the future. Now, in addition, of course, the city works closely with the Brookings Economic Development Corporation, the Brookings Chamber of Commerce, and then the Leaders Roundtable to engage key leaders in our community and find out a pulse of the community, if you will. And then the City Council each meet weekly with our healthcare providers to better understand our current conditions in the City of Brookings.
Great, thank you very much. President Dunn, it was reported in local media last week that SDSU hired a public health specialist to serve on the Jaxerback task force and engage with the community and healthcare folks. Can you tell us a little bit more about that position and why it is so important?
Sure, Andy. Thanks for the question. You know, as we moved into that recovery phase, we surveyed the assets we have on campus and in our community, and while we have great virologists on campus, we have epidemiologists on campus, and they've been doing a super job helping us in our emergency management task force. We felt like we needed an expert in in public health to come on board and help us and help the city really serve two roles here and be kind of a coordinator and a single voice. And I called it a designated warrior, a person who worries about this and the communication. And so we hired Laura Dirks, who is an alum of ours and went on to get a master's degree in Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. Emory is one of the top private schools in America, and is right next door to the CDC. And so Laura worked in the CDC and was in the CDC when COVID broke, and as part of her master's program. And so she brings a great, an amazing portfolio to us to help the university and the city pull together and deal with how do we bring 12,000 people back to the city of Brookings, back to campus in a safe way. And that's really a big challenge for us, and because they're going to come from all over, we know that, and we want to do it safely. So Laura's going to help us keep track of the changes in the CDC guidelines. So those other people on campus that do such a good job for us, they have day jobs. They've got to teach, they have to do research, and this will be Laura's full-time job. So we're glad to have Laura.
And has she started?
She has, and she's working virtually, and she's preparing to move over the 4th of July weekend back to Brookings.
Great. Mayor Corbett, since we're talking about healthcare, can you expand a little on that healthcare piece and share how the Brookings health system has responded to and will continue to respond to COVID-19?
Certainly. Of course, they're an integral part of everything we do. I think Jason Merkley gets frequent dialed from the city manager and myself, and he's always got the great answers. He's got a great team in place that, are integral part, as I keep saying the word, planning, and how important they are to us. And this year, there were questions when we enacted some of our ordinance and our resolutions to shut down some businesses, then some went to the carry out only. But what that actually did, those various phases during the summer, granted the hospital more time to prepare and plan for the future. And to date now, the hospital has a capacity for 85 plus COVID patients if necessary, and we hope we never have to figure out if that's an accurate number. And they can also enact the pandemic plan that grows the capacity by opening up the Swift Health Center. The hospital works daily with state officials, with regional providers, locally with Avera, Sanford, the City Council, SDSU, and community leaders to keep everybody informed. Communication is a key word there, and they're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, thank you very much. President Dunn, it was announced last week that the academic calendar for the fall semester is going to be adjusted. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how that decision was made?
Right. We've decided to start classes on August 19th, and so we've moved up the start date 3 days, and then we will not be closing the campus, and we will be hosting campus. I'll say it differently, Andy. We will be having class on 3 holidays, and we will celebrate those holidays, but we will do it during the day. But we're going to hold classes those days, and and making those 2 moves allows us to finish face-to-face classes right at the Thanksgiving break. And then finals will be online, and those will be in the first 2 weeks of December. And what that does, it keeps 11,000 students returning home for Thanksgiving, saying hi to Grandpa and Grandma, and coming back, and perhaps spreading the virus more. And it also allows us to not be here on campus when in what we know will be a flu season. So it's got several public health benefits, and one of them is to keep people here on campus as much as possible, or in Brookings as much as possible, and then let them go home take their finals. And we're actually going to shut the campus down and do some deep cleaning while they're not here. So we're going to shut the campus down between Christmas and New Year's during that whole week. And then we haven't made a decision on the spring semester yet. We might have to adjust it as we see how the virus acts here on campus and in the city of Brookings this fall.
But right now, that spring start date has not changed, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Mayor Corbett, kind of along those same lines, is there any update on where the city stands in terms of its services? You mentioned this a little bit about kind of some of the things that they had to do, but and how you plan for the impact of students when they will return.
Certainly a forum such as this and our meetings with the Jacks Are Back is crucial, but the city has 4 phases. The first phase, of course, we had earlier in the year where all businesses were open at 100% capacity. And then phase 2 is restaurants, bars, salons, retail, and other places could open at 50%, and certain employees had to wear masks. And phase 3 is where restaurants, bars, salons, retail, and other places closed, but they could offer carry out. And then phase 4 is the stay at home, which we hope we never get to, for only essential duties. And this is the most restrictive. Should the numbers increase dramatically, and our healthcare professionals advise us and our other advisors, the city council by resolution could enact any of these 4 phases. So we're hoping we don't get to those.
Very good, very good. Agreed. President Dunn, the university has announced some move-in options for students when they're coming back, including a drop-and-go option. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that option is and where planning for residential life stands at this point?
Absolutely. So one of my favorite days I'm into my 11th year back from as dean, and now into my 5th year as president. And one of my favorite days is move-in day. And I started out when I was dean carrying things. I was convinced every student lived on the 4th floor. People said that wasn't true, but I carried lots of futons to the 4th floor. So we're not going to be able to do that this year, and I'm going to miss that fun day. We're actually going to allow students to bring some of their belongings from July 4th to August 7th on a drop and go, what we call it. So they can 200 students a day can come back and bring a bunch of their with some family members or support team, and partially move in at least, and then come back the day classes start. So we're trying to spread everything out, Andy, and that's an effort to do that. And if students can't do that, then they will start on August 10th, and they could start moving back over that. It's basically a week before classes start, and then they'll stay in. Hopefully, we'll keep them here in Brookings as much as we can. So we're just trying to spread everything out in time and space so that we keep a contact as minimal as we possibly can. It's really kind of the reverse of what we did on the move out when we invited students back. I was really proud of that. I think the whole community should be, because more than half of our students live in the community. And so we saw lots of students. We coordinated it here on campus, but Jane and I live in a neighborhood with lots of students, and and we saw them that it was really a very orderly move out of students who moved out of the dorms and moved out of the apartments surrounding campus. And I don't think anyone really knew it was happening. It was done so smoothly, really reported no illnesses based upon that. So we've done a good job. I'm really proud of our team.
Well, that day, I know that is one of your favorite days, that and graduation. I will say that there'll be some students who won't lose Grandma's chocolate chip cookies this year to you, since you can't help move, since you're not helping with moving. So some folks are going to get a couple extra chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, I did charge kids a chocolate chip cookie or two as we moved in, but not this year.
It's a service fee, right?
You're right. Yeah.
Mayor Corbett, obviously many SDSU students live in the Brookings community and not on campus. How are the expectations for students coming back, or does it seem like many of them have been living here over the summer?
Well, thank you, and thanks for letting me know about President Dunn and the chocolate chip cookies. We'll be having a talk one of these days. You're right, there are a number of students, as President Dunn said, a number of students do live in our community, and particularly a lot of them do work here in the summer. You know, I'm working with our businesses in town. They're very aware of the need to protect their employees plus their patrons, and they share that with the students. And it's just great to have that word carried out there. And of course, now with 50% capacity for restaurants opening, a lot more students we're seeing back, and many student athletes are here during the summer too. We know that. So we're visiting with anybody we can, whether it be a business owner, an employer, just to make sure people understand about how important it is to protect themselves and others, and what our expectations of them are, and of course what resources there are available. And the university does a great job with that also. And we're continuing to review legislation on large gatherings. Rumor has it that sometimes students do have a tendency to get together at house parties. I don't believe that in Brookings, but you know, they say that happens. And anyway, no, and so we want to make sure we're communicating that to students. And the other thing is that we are working closely with other peer college towns to understand what are the best practices for implementing that with all the students that do live here, and existing and communicating to students our commitment to our community and to resident students to make sure everybody feels welcome and safe in Brookings.
Excellent.
Just a second. For those of you who don't know, Mayor Corbett and I went to college together the same 4 years, and I think we were at a house party or two together, Keith. So we need to be honest about this. So.
I came to pick you up, Barry, and take you home.
Well, I'm a little worried the way that the mayor started that there's going to be a cookie tax started here in Brookings, and I just want to go on the record that I'm against a cookie tax. Just
okay. And for the record, duly noted.
President Dunn, once students are here, once everyone's moved back, what do you expect the academic structure to look like? And you touched on this a little bit, but specifically, how do you plan to handle large classrooms?
Right. It's going to be a mixed methodology, pedagogy, not to get too technical, Andy, but so Provost Hedge and the deans and department heads are working really hard with the faculty planning this. You know, we could have some, you know, alternating through the week on face-to-face, and then perhaps on a Monday, and then part of the group is online, and then on Wednesday they switch. You know, we're gonna record, I think, every class of every course, and have that online, or have that on D2L, the teaching platform we have. So it's going to be a mixed methodology. We've still got lots and lots of labs to provide, and that's in just about every discipline. And so we've got to work through how we're going to keep social distancing in a chemistry lab or a biology lab, an engineering exercise, and then all the things in the performing arts. So don't have all the answers yet. We're certainly in contact with our colleagues at other universities around the United States and learning best practices. And so it's going to be different, but we know that the students and their parents really missed the value of face-to-face learning. If anything, we learned many things since COVID started. And I was talking to a friend in the Texas A&M system today. They had the exact same feedback as we did, is that value proposition as President Sheekwin used to talk about was reduced when it was all online. So we know students like face-to-face. There's enormous value there. So we've got to find a way to do that safely, and it's probably going to be in a mixed methodology.
So how does enrollment look for the fall?
Right. Certainly the press had some pretty dramatic stories back in March and April about that they were predicting that we would see a very large drop in enrollment. And right now we're on track to be about where we were last year. I think the group that we're most concerned about is the loss of international students due to some travel bans because of COVID-19. So we understand it, but actually our retention of that freshman to sophomore, it's extremely high right now. We're very excited about that. And our freshman class is about where it was last year. So it looks good. We certainly were concerned about a major drop, but I say this teasingly, but I think parents might be ready to have some of their sons and daughters leave, and maybe some sons and daughters are ready to leave, Andy, and come back, and so then it's our job to keep them safe.
Yeah, exactly. We've had one question come into the Q&A, and it's about move-in, and I think I kind of know the answer, but will students be assigned a time to move in, or will they be able to choose? And probably a little bit particularly with that drop and go setup.
Yeah, our staff will work with them to allow them to choose as much as possible. Absolutely. So that's a lot of days that they can work on. So we need to be as flexible as we can, because we understand parents or that support team I mentioned needs to take time off perhaps, and so we've got to work with them, and I'm sure we will.
So I've got one final question kind of for both of you, and I think it's what do you think students can expect when they come to campus and to Brookings this fall? And Mayor Corbett, we'll start with you.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, the city's going to continue to work with community partners and educate everyone on CDC's best practices, including social distancing and proper hygiene, masks. And I think the community is ready for students to come back. It's pretty quiet around here, pretty much so. And I think we love to have the students back. They bring a sense of energy to Brookings that we all love and we're certainly missing now. There's going to be greater oversight of larger gatherings. Obviously, we're going to have to do that, and watching the environment, but also, just education, working with students, working with SDSU advisors, however President Dunn decides we should do that, just to educate everybody. I think that's important, because we all know we get together and we just want to have fun, and we just want to make sure that they're safe too. And then we just know that we might have to enact one of the 4 COVID phases if that happens. But again, best information we have from our healthcare providers, working closely with SDSU and key individuals in the community to help us make those decisions.
Excellent, thank you very much. President Dunn?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a lot of patience, a lot of kindness here. This is a brand new world for all of us. We know what we have to do in terms of the public health guidelines are clear. We're going to have to do the very best we can on the things that Mayor Corbett just mentioned. It's in all of our best interest. There are lots of ways to have what's called congregate living and do it safely. And we have to become experts of that really quickly. And so it's going to take. We're going to have an educational program for our students and our staff this summer, and we'll certainly make that available to the community. It's been talked about, just about every hour of every day somewhere in the media about what people have to do to respect each other's health and take care of each other. We're going to have to be fully committed to that as a campus, and I know we will. I know the Brookings community has just been fantastic supporters, so it's going to look different. I think the union will not be as busy, things like that. We don't know about athletics yet, Andy. looking forward to a football season, but don't have the details yet. So there's lots to come. So I really encourage people to go to the Jacks Are Back website. We've started to build some robustness into that and reports out. And so some details there. We're going to put a frequently asked questions section to that so that people can quickly learn about what's going on here on campus. And again, reiterating what Mayor Corbett said about working with together. We were on a Zoom early this morning, Keith, weren't we? And,
Yes.
and we'll probably be talking several times yet this week. So the more we communicate and work with each other, the better off the community will be.
I think too, you talk about the robustness of that website. I would invite folks to continue to join these webinar opportunities as we get closer to students coming back. More of those specifics will be available, and the list of guests, those are the folks who deal directly in some of those areas, and so we've spaced those out and scheduled those in a way that hopefully as we have more answers, we can share them. As the mayor said, communication is so important in this. And so if you've got questions, let us know so we can make sure that they get answered either in this Zoom forum or in some other way. So appreciate both of you tonight. Big thank you also to Brookings City Manager Paul Brazino, SDSU Director of Marketing and Communications Mike Lockram, and President and CEO of the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce Kelsey Doom for kind of setting all of this up. I mentioned those future forums. Our next forum will be June 24th, and the guests will be Brookings Assistant City Manager Jacob Meschke and SDSU Vice President for Student Affairs Michaela Willis. They'll talk a lot more about things like move-in and new student orientation and all of that. As President Dunn mentioned, for more information on Jacks Are Back, please visit the website sdstate.edu/Jacks Are Back. But thank you for joining us this evening, and with loyal hearts so true, go Jacks.
Wow.